First of all, let's have an overview of what we're going to talk about today. First, we're going to talk about the phloem, the source and sink, translocation, pressure flow model, and last but not least, the phloem sap extraction. First, let's look at the phloem, the basis for all sugar transport in plants. According to Google, a phloem is a living tissue in vascular plants that transports the soluble organic compounds made during photosynthesis, known as photosynthates, in particular the sugar sucrose, to parts of the plant where needed. This diagram shows the parts of the phloem tube. So we have the parenchyma cells lining the sides of the phloem tube, and we can see that the phloem tube is made of components such as the sieve tubes, companion cells, as well as plasmodemata. Next up, let's look at the source and sink. So the source is the part of the plant from where the sugars are transported from. These may refer to the leaves. The parts of the plant from where the sugars are transported to are known as the sinks, such as flowers, stems, and the roots. So basically, sources are places where the sucrose originates from, and the sink is where the sucrose will end up. These sucrose sugars are mainly stored for future use, and when needed, they are translocated to different parts of the plant. What is translocated? That will be explained in the following slides. But first, let's look at the source and sink. In this case, the source and sink have been inverted. The source becomes the root and the sink becomes the leaves. Hey, I thought you said that the source has to be the leaves. No, this is not the only case. When the source is known as the roots and the sink is the leaves, it occurs against gravity, and this phenomenon only occurs under certain conditions such as bad weather. Such instance is when there is not enough sunlight for photosynthesis to occur. The roots to the leaves, source to sink, occurs mostly in tubers and bulbs, like the picture here below of a potato plant. Here's an example of the inverse source to sink method we discussed before. In summer, the leaves photosynthesize and produce sucrose. So in the summer, we can say that the source is the leaves which produce the sucrose, and the sink is the tubers that stores the sucrose in starch as starch. And when it is winter time, the starch is stored in the tubers as they begin to hibernate. And when spring comes, the sucrose is sent to the new shoots. In this case, the tubers acts as a food supply for the new plants to grow in spring. And thus, the source becomes the tubers and the sink becomes the shoots. Remember that translocation is bidirectional, as we have discussed before. The source and sink can change depending on the needs of the plant, especially during bad weather times.
Hi, now I am going to proceed with translocation. So, if the sugar is concentrated in the leaf, it will transfer out to the sieve tube via companion cell. So, leaf are the main source of the sugar production. Sugar is actively loaded into sieve tube and it will flow with the water. High concentration of sugar in the sieve tubes cause water flow in by osmosis. So where is the water come from? The water come from xylem by osmosis. Sugar concentration in the phloem draws water from the xylem. So the material in the phloem will will flow from the source to the sink. Meanwhile, water in the xylem will flow from the roots to the leaves. Okay, when the sugar arrives to the root, sugar transport out of the sieve tube into the root cell. There is the sugar used in the respiration or the metabolic processes. High concentration of sugar in the root cell causes water to follow by osmosis. Okay, next we will proceed with pressure flow model. Okay, first I will read the flow and then later I will explain it. Sucrose loading active transport is dependent on hydrogen ion gradient. Hydrogen ion are actively pumped into the mesophyll cell. So hydrogen ion can be co-transported with sucrose into sieve tube cell. So what happened is sucrose must transport by active transport. Okay, first hydrogen ion will pump into the mesophyll cell, and then the hydrogen will be co-transported to sucrose and actively transport into the cell, which means hydrogen helps sucrose to transport into the cell. Yes. Okay, we're moving on to the fluent sap extraction. So do you know they have an insect named aphids? So aphids have needle-like mouthpart called stylet. Yes, stylet. If researchers insert needle into the stem, the phloem would clot, but aphids not. Okay, stylet, needle-like mouthpart, can penetrate a stem and tap into a sieve tube. High pressure of the sucrose solution is forced through an apic's digestive tract very quickly. Droplet of the sucrose on the rare end called honeydew. So this is the example, the picture. Okay, this is the honey droplet. And this apid is sucking the sucrose. Okay, this is the stylet. Okay, I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and very good evening to our honorable guest, Dr. Zakri Fitri bin Abdul Aziz, and also to my friend, Nur Syafiqah Binti Muhammad Nazri. So welcome to the virtual interview or Q&A session of the topic Sugar Transport in Plant.
Based on your experience and your knowledge, what do you know about sucrose? How sucrose can form and why plant needs sucrose?
Sucrose, okay. Sucrose, is we have three types of sugar, and we have glucose, sucrose, and fructose. And actually, we have many maltose and lactose and so on. So it can be generated from photosynthesis, and sucrose is not too sweet, and then not too not too sweet. It's just it's a moderate sweetness. So glucose is less sweet, and fructose more sweet.
How does the movement of fluid occur in the phloem?
We have a sieve-like structure, so higher translocate from very near sink. So leaf is a source, and then we have sink. Sink is at active site. For example, at terminal bud or apical bud, and another one is at sink is at sucrose or glucose from higher leaf. So for lower leaf, any photosynthetic or photosynthetic product will go to roots. Okay, and then so it will travel from a source of sucrose, then go to phloem. Then we'll pass to, you can get some moisture, some liquid from xylem to make it move better, circulated better. Okay, so it's actually is a boundary from this xylem and phloem.
Thank you very much. And we really understand for your explanation. We really appreciate. So I think this is all for our short virtual interview for today. Thank